you. Okay, we have several renewals, and so we'll open as the local liquor control board. And we have 5 renewals. Are any of the applicants present? Would you like to say anything about your application?
No.
You're from REDCAN? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you for being here. And we just wanted to give, we know you're not required to be here, but we like to give folks, if they do attend, to make any comments if they wish, but that's fine if you don't have any. Okay,
If they're all renewals, I can go ahead and,
do it as one motion?
right? Okay.
Yep, okay, great, thank you, Mary.
All right, so I move that the Select Board renew the application of Jake's Quechee Market Incorporated, 7161 Woodstock Road. That's Route 4, Quechee, Vermont, 05059 for a second class and tobacco license. I move also that the Select Board renew the application of Public House at Quechee Gorge, LLC, doing business as Public House at Quechee Gorge, the CKA, Quechee, Vermont, 05059 for a first class, third class, and outside consumption license. And the renewal application of Quechee Pizza Chef, 5893 Woodstock Road, White River Junction, Vermont, 05001 for a first class, third class, and outside consumption license. Also, the renewal application of REDCAN, 129 South Main Street, White River Junction, Vermont, 05001 for a first class, third class, and outside consumption licenses. And the final, the renewal application of Vural Oktay Incorporated, doing business as Tuckerbox and Cappadocia Café, 186 South Main Street, White River Junction, Vermont, 05001 for a first class, third class, and outside consumption licenses.
Thank you, Mary.
Second that.
There's a second from Eric. Any discussion or comments about any of these applications? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay, so John, we have 5 yays, 2 absent.
Thank you.
And those pass, so thank you for coming in, congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
Best wishes for another year of business. Okay, we have no local cannabis control board business tonight, so we'll move to the order of agenda. Any notes or changes regarding the agenda? John, I'll look to you first. Did you have any?
I've got none, no.
Okay, anyone else? Comments on the agenda? Okay. Great, then we will open for public comment. So we welcome public comments. And if anyone is in the room, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Not seeing any, but is there someone, are there any hands online? Yes, okay, so Marie, go ahead and I will try to do my best to let you know when the 3 minutes is up.
Marie, I muted you just because we were getting an echo. We're gonna try to see if we can figure that out really quick.
Is it on? So, okay. Marie, it was very echoey when you were unmuted. If you want to give it another try, see if we can hear you this time. Yeah, we were hearing my voice echo through your microphone. I'm sorry, Marie. We couldn't hear you at all. It was just echoing.
I wonder if we need to.
It was echoing on my end too, sorry.
Now John is.
Yeah, I think it's because she unmuted again. I think it's just coming from Marie's end.
Wait, John, say something else?
Here, wait, will you mute Marie, please? We're just gonna test. John, will you speak, please?
Yes, I had believed we had heard a meeting or two ago that some of the platforms might be superior to others to avoid these glitches. I'm I have zoomed in as provided for at the top of the agenda that's posted online. I don't know how Marie might be trying to access the meeting. Maybe she would text us that.
Yeah, she's on Zoom as well.
Okay.
Would it be, does she have any other electronic in the area that might be interfering?
I'm pretty sure because this happened and then weeks ago, it's the same person.
Okay.
Okay, Marie, if you have the meeting playing on multiple devices, maybe mute one of the devices and then talk through the other. And then you can unmute yourself once you do that, and we can see if that works. No, did not work.
So sorry, Marie, it's still very echoey. So unfortunately, because of this issue, I don't think we can take your public comments tonight, but if you could email us, we will definitely consider your comments in writing, and hopefully we can hear from you next time. But yeah, sorry it's not coming through in a way that we can understand. Are there any other hands up online?
I do.
Yes.
If she emails during the meeting, can we then entertain those comments?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to, if you have comments that you can put in writing very easily, and you want to email them to us, then we will pause where we're at and read them so they're in the public record. No other comments? Okay. And if we're not hearing any other comments at the moment, we will close our public comment for the evening. And we may reopen if we are able to read a written comment from Marie during the meeting. Okay. Now we'll have select board comments. Would anyone like to start us off if they have a comment they're hoping to make tonight? Yes.
I'll start. I want to thank everybody who appeared. I know most of you probably already saw the thank you from the Monument Committee, but I also wanted to add quickly that it really hit me when I read the other day a comment from, I think it was in the Valley News, about service, and that service comes in many forms. And I just wanted to take a moment out to say to all the people on our committees and boards and commissions, they do a great service to our town. And so I just want to thank them for their service. And then I'll just segue, if you don't mind. I thought this was pretty important because there hasn't been enough information other than in the Valley News last week. 25 years ago, Bill Clinton passed the roadless rule. It was the most successful conservation measure protecting wild public lands, including 260,000 acres of the White Mountains and the Green Mountains in the National Forest. And the roadless rule is being undone and without public comment. In fact, the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources head said, quote, "You don't need to know about what we're planning to do, and we certainly don't care what you think." And I think probably all of us in Vermont and in Hartford find that national forests and what they protect, it's not just the forests themselves, it's the waterways, it is the habitat protection, consistently moving animals through habitats that are best for them. It also, with the undoing of this roadless rule, will bring in more invasive species, and Scott Cooney's here, but science has shown that it is more prone to fires as a result of opening up new roads and more people coming into some of these roadless areas. So I did find out that there are public meetings in Vermont, in Lyndonville, Waterbury, Burlington, and Ludlow, and there's a virtual meeting on Thursday, June 11th, but you have to have your public comment by June 18th in order to have it recorded. So I would urge anybody who's interested in this information to, you can contact Sierra Club, you can contact Standing Trees, and I'm sure that you can contact the Agency for Natural Resources. So thank you, and I'm sorry for going on.
No, it's okay. Thank you for that comment. Okay. Eric, any comments from you?
Nothing for me tonight, thank you.
Okay. We did receive a written comment from Marie, so I will read that now.
Okay.
Okay. After being on the project, so this is a comment from Marie Alvin, who lives in Hartford, Wilder. After being on the project outreach committee for over a year, I attended 2 to 3 meetings a month. I was constantly requesting needle data. Just because the state doesn't require this information, we as a town should be tracking and looking at this data. This data indicates where problems are and where project outreach needs to be. Last spring, 250 were found in Wilder. Last summer, 850 were found behind the Main Street Museum. Last year, a person paid $1 for each returned needle. $1,800 was paid. This spring, I hear there were approximately 3,000 needles picked up from under the bridge, several hundred behind the VFW. How many are being collected from the boxes around town? Please advise the health officer to start providing this data. This is where project outreach should be. Were they not aware of the attics under the bridge, 3,000 needles? Please require monthly reports from project outreach as to the data that they are collecting through this coalition and the situation table. Last I knew, there were 9 people that got into recovery. Are those 9 still in recovery? How many more have gotten in? This program is a major expense to the town. How are you going to rate the success of it? In the 747 Twin Pines Hartford Ave update, what I've been hearing about residents living within 747 is that there's been people smoking crack on the inside. There have also been 2 calls made to HPD regarding non-tenants hanging out in the parking lot, smoking crack, perhaps stealing. Video shows cops came and left and did nothing. Doing drugs is now okay in Hartford. Tenants question why they even bother to call in when HPD does nothing. How is Twin Pines going to control non-residents from hanging out? They are trespassing and doing drugs. Okay, thank you for sending the comment, Marie. Appreciated and received. For my select board comment, to shift gears, I was going to announce a event that is coming up this Friday, which is in conjunction with the Energy Commission and a group of Dartmouth students in their Community Partnerships for Climate Resilience program have been working on issues around extreme heat and vulnerable populations in Hartford. And they're going to present their findings and materials that they've created this Friday, May 29th at 3 p.m. at the Hartford Public Safety Building in the training room. And that's at 812 VA Cutoff Road. So if you would like to attend that, select board members are welcome. I'm planning to attend Friday afternoon. I'm really curious to see what the students learned and how they're going to share back their findings that are specific to our community. So if you want more details or the information repeated, you can email John or myself or Dana Clausen, who will be there coordinating the event. That's all I have for comments. Randy, do you have any comments?
Yes. I just wanted to say that, sorry to everyone who I'm behind on communications with. I was traveling and then immediately got sick, as it goes. So I'm more behind than usual. And also, because yesterday was Memorial Day, I recommend that everyone check out Veterans Park. It was already a beautiful park to begin with, but now with the new monuments up, it's really gorgeous. I wasn't able to attend the ceremony, but I heard it was really nice and that the rain was able to hold off just until after the ceremony was done. So I heard it was really beautiful, and I recommend everyone check out it's a really nice, beautiful park right by the river. So
Nice. Yeah, and I'll add really quick too. I know we still are going to hear from Mike, but there was some cool local news coverage too. I watched the video clip on the local news channel. So congrats to everyone who made that event happen. It sounds like it was great turnout and a very meaningful moment and recognition for the people involved. Mike, any comments?
No,
Okay.
thanks for asking.
Yeah, of course. All right. Next up, we don't have any appointments tonight, so we'll move on to the town manager report, and over to you, John.
Great, thank you, and thank you for accommodating me with a Zoom appearance today. Appreciate that very much. In terms of the town manager's report, I can start with just an announcement that HR Director and Executive Assistant Paula Nolte has announced her resignation effective June 12th. We greatly appreciate her 8 years of service to the town, and we wish her well as she begins a new chapter. This position is currently being advertised, and we hope to find a successor as soon as possible. I do want to note that the opioid funding RFP has been published, posted, and emailed to social service providers in the region. If you have an idea for the use of town opioid litigation settlement funds and the ability to execute, please submit your proposal to the town in the manner prescribed in the RFP. In addition, the town has extended the deadline for applications for those willing to serve on the opioid fund grant review committee. If you are interested, please let the town manager know. We're particularly interested in hearing from people from the public health profession and from those who have a lived experience regarding the toll taken by opioid use and abuse. I would like to join others in thanking Mary Kay and Dennis Brown and the other members of the Hartford Monument Committee for arranging a very meaningful and moving Memorial Day event and dedication of the new memorial at Veterans Park on Monday. Um, the new memorial, the new monument honors veterans who have served during the Korean War era, the Vietnam War era, and the period from 1975 to 2025. And again, despite some threatening weather, things turned out fine, and we had a great turnout and a good event. So thanks to all involved. I would like to note that, as we all know, the heat pumps here at the town hall are beyond their useful life and are functioning particularly poorly, if they're functioning at all, on the second and third floors of the building. At the next select board meeting, that is June 9th, the select board will be asked to approve a contract with a bidder to serve as the town's consultant as the town seeks bids from contractors to address the problem once and for all. Meanwhile, as summer returns to Vermont, temperatures can and are rising to uncomfortable levels in the upper floors of Town Hall, notwithstanding the efforts of staff to bring in portable AC units and fans. So warm temperatures in the workplace may force some staffers to temporarily relocate to other locales, either within Town Hall or elsewhere, from which remote work is possible. However, for front-facing staff, and I'm talking about the people who work the windows on the second floor, dealing with customers who come in and want services, we're asking that they continue to perform their work, but in a cooler location in the building, probably in the select board chamber themselves, where temperatures can be more effectively managed. Notices will be published and signage deployed in an effort to minimize inconvenience to town hall visitors. Beyond my own report, I have a few things I'd like to highlight from some of the other department heads with your indulgence. The assessor notes that his office is working on the 2026 grand list, which will be a key ingredient for the select board to set tax rates in July. The assessor has reviewed values of new solar property, cell towers, and telecommunications properties, and utilities and sales validation in preparation for completing his work. The Environmental Sustainability Coordinator notes that on May 13th, 5 firms interested in bidding on the Town Hall heat pump consulting RFP attended a tour of the Town Hall to look at the existing systems and ask questions. Bids for that RFP are due on by noon on June 3rd, I should say. Dana also notes that work has begun to install 8 level 3 fast chargers in the South Main parking lot, and that work started on May 18th. We expect that work to wrap up by mid-June. He also notes that the Energy Commission is starting on the update to the town's enhanced energy plan. This plan will outline Hartford's goals related to energy and the state's goals. Having an enhanced energy plan, which is also the energy section of the town plan, gives the town preferred deference in energy matters that come before the Public Utilities Commission. If anyone's interested in taking part in the plan update, they should contact Dana Clausen at the town hall. Parks and Rec notes that we're finalizing our summer staff, scheduling training, ordering supplies and equipment to start preparing sites for the start of our busy summer season that is less than 1 month away. South Shore Gunite Pools and Spa will be at the Sherman Aquatic facility on May 27th, that's tomorrow, to open up the pool for the season. The Wrights Reservoir outlet apparently had an obstruction at the pond site outlet. This caused a backup, and the pond did end up filling up to the level of several feet. Well, once the level comes down a bit, we plan to rework the area to eliminate this from occurring again. In the planning department, we hear that the 3-day accessory dwelling unit workshops co-sponsored by the department, the Bugby Center, and AARP on May 11th through 13th was very successful with 30 people in attendance. Public Works submitted what I would call a very robust set of SIGACs, and we commend them for being so detailed, providing almost a roadmap of a lot of their projects. One of which I'd like to highlight, which is that work is underway to conduct an initial review of some streets as weather allows to be paved before and after an AI road assessment is conducted. This will be a town-wide review in the next 2 weeks, again, depending on weather, and that'll be helpful for that upcoming pavement RFP. The town clerk notes several upcoming election deadlines for the August primary on Tuesday, August 11th, general election Tuesday, November 3rd, and candidate petitions and deadlines and forms are all located on the town clerk's website. The fire department had its annual awards ceremony. I was pleased to attend a couple of weeks ago and watched as the firefighter of the year was named, and that's senior firefighter Rich Colburn. The military service award was given to senior firefighter Ryan Hulsart. A unit citation was awarded to Lieutenant Collins, firefighter Poole, firefighter Stoughton, Captain Hannix, senior firefighter Mock, senior firefighter Colburn, firefighter Cahan, and Captain La Liberty, along with Chief Cooney, for their work on a complex and life-saving incident involving a 84-year-old man trapped beneath a truck with his arm caught in a sander. Another unit citation with regard to an active shooter incident went to Captain William La Liberté, Lieutenant Keith Morse, and firefighters Eli Snelling, Gage Merritt, and Matthew McCabe. Another unit citation having to do with a pediatric allergic reaction response was awarded to Captain Brett Quillia, Lieutenant Paramedic Troy Collins, Senior Firefighter Aaron Daughter, and Firefighter Paramedic Greg Stoughton. The Chief is also pleased to announce Dylan Mock has been promoted to Lieutenant, and Sean Spencer has been promoted to Acting Lieutenant. The Police Department notes a couple of events of note, and one of them involves reminding folks that the Outreach Division continues to participate in the Situation Table, chaired by Lieutenant Fernari, with Analyst Wunderlich serving as the data recorder, and presented multiple people in need of assistance. They then engaged in follow-up meetings with those individuals to coordinate their reception of needed services. The chief also notes that Officer Gibbons, through good observations and active policing, identified the presence in town of a person who had two active in-state warrants for arrest. One involved a cocaine possession, and the other had to do with um, weapons, committing a crime with a weapon, and possession of stolen property. Another incident involved Officer Siren performing needed medical attention to a compound fracture to stem the blood flow consistent with an arterial bleed. Officer Siren applied 2 tourniquets to the male's leg to stop the bleeding from the wound. So thank you very much for your time as we celebrate good fire, police work, and the contributions from other staff members.
Thank you, John.
Ida,
Yes,
can I ask John a question?
of course. We're gonna have a question from Mary, John.
Yeah.
John, with your announcement of the position opening up for HR, how do you handle the fact that there is an RFP out for possible changes in the position? I don't know if that's something that you're gonna talk about with the individual, or what will happen?
I have had discussions with select board leadership about this topic, and I would like to discuss it further. But generally speaking, I have gone out with an advertisement to fill the position with both an HR and an executive assistant functionality to it, keeping open-minded as to how interviews go with candidates, because I do think that it's important that the town have a functioning HR office just as soon as possible. And I don't want to prejudge the outcome of an RFP and an evaluation that might follow from that. So my best recommendation is that we proceed with that RFP and focus on the positions, not the individuals who may have held them. It's important that we get this right, and we look forward to having the input from experts if and when we are able to find applicants for that study that the select board has asked be performed. So for now, I've gone out with a classified advertisement for both an HR position and executive assistant position combined, just as the position is now combined.
Thank you, John.
Sure.
Eric?
Thank you, Ida. Thanks, John. We've heard, I just wanted to circle back to the public comment we had tonight. We've heard the same or a similar request about needle data, and I believe there was a thread, an email thread, some time ago in which the health officer suggested that that data could be or is being collected. I don't recall exactly the details. I don't want to chew up agenda time with you necessarily responding tonight, but I wonder if you could respond to Marie on that and/or give the board an update at our next meeting and let us know what the protocol is for the data collection. Who's collecting it, how frequently, where is it being stored, and how is it being reported out? Some details like that I think would be useful. I don't understand exactly how, I can kind of guess at some of the potential uses for it, but if it's something that the health officer, it sounded from that email thread that he said he could collect it and it wasn't onerous, then we ought to do so, and the usages of it might present themselves as we go forward. So I was hoping to just get a little bit more information either back to Marie or to the board at our next meeting, unless there's any objections from board members.
It's my understanding, Eric, from that thread that he was certainly willing to do that. I've asked him to do that going forward. And the only caution I had was asking him whether trying to count the needles would in any way present a risk of harm by handling needles. And he suggested, no, that's not the case, that they can pick them up without putting themselves at jeopardy, and that if there are a large number of needles at a particular spot, he's willing to provide best guesstimates without counting them each one by one. So, but I can certainly follow up and get you more of the answers to the questions you have posed, Eric.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that question. Any other questions for John about the town manager report? Okay, thank you, John.
Sure.
All right, we don't have any committee or commission updates tonight. So we're moving on to the broad section of the agenda, board reports, motions, and ordinances. And we are going to begin with interviews of folks who applied to be part of the Twin Pines Task Force, aka Working Group. We have several applicants and they are here. The way we will do this is we'll ask, if you're in person, to come to the microphone. I'm gonna do all the interviews and just ask two questions, the same two questions of everybody who is here to speak to us tonight. And then we will go into a session to decide, make decisions following the interviews. And I don't know, Miranda, do you want to say anything about process moving forward in terms of extending the deadline and?
Yeah, so we're gonna extend the deadline for tenants. I believe that will be set for other positions pending our discussion, but yeah,
Maybe we can make this part after the executive
Yeah,
session. We'll clarify it in we'll clarify the next steps, in part of our executive session, but generally there'll probably be a second round of interviews since we did not have a complete pool of applicants this round. But we'll provide details after we confer with each other. Okay, so we have so Jeanette, you are here. May I volunteer you to go first? Would you mind? Okay, come up to the microphone if you don't mind.
Jeanette Potter, White River Junction.
Great. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much for your interest in this committee. Deeply appreciated. And we're just gonna ask two questions, give a brief answer, and whatever you'd like to share will be great to hear. We've read your application too. But just first, in your own words, how would you describe the purpose of this committee, the Twin Pines Task Force?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in my mind's eye, this is a way for the town to be able to work with Twin Pines in order to secure additional affordable and safe housing for the town, which I think most people are in agreement that we do not have affordable housing. And then also there has been some concerns about safety as well. So one point in time, I actually, sorry, I just saw one of my middle schoolers zip by. One point in time, I was contracted for a short while on a grant to go in and provide substance use and mental health counseling into Twin Pines housing, and it was a really positive experience. I don't know what happened to that grant funding or if they still do that model. So anyway, I don't want to blather on, but I think it's to help support Twin Pines in providing safe and affordable housing that everyone can be happy with.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, and I think some of what you're beginning to share leads into the next question too, which is just what do you see as your role, or what would you bring to the table as part of this committee?
Yeah, so as I said, I've worked specific to that in another role I had in the past. I think that was 2019. Then I work with a lot of kids who live in that housing, so I have kind of my heart is I want them to be in safe and affordable housing. And I think I also bring well, I'm just gonna put it out there, I don't have a lot of, somebody encouraged me to do this, and I was like, I don't know anything about housing, other than it's not affordable. And so I think I would lean on others for that piece, but I think the social service piece, having worked and lived in this area for the last 30 years in social services, I have a pretty good grip on the systems already in place, and maybe I'm hoping that there's just some systems that aren't being utilized at all or effectively, and that there are solutions to this issue.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Any final words or anything else you want to share with us?
No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, great. So we have a few other applicants. I don't think anyone else is in the room who applied. Do we have people online?
Don't think they're online either.
Larry, Victoria, Aaron. Okay. Yes.
Hi, I'm sorry, I applied, good question.
Okay.
I was asked for clarification, so Jeanette Potter, White River Junction, I was asked if I applied as a school person or a community member. And I guess I'm both of those things, so I certainly don't represent the school other than in my daytime job, but I do have that perspective.
Right, okay, great. Okay, so if we do not have, if you are an applicant and you can hear us on Zoom, go ahead and raise your hand. If not, we will likely be inviting you to come when we do another round of interviews at a future meeting. Okay, given that, does it make sense to still do an executive session at this moment? Yeah, I
think so.
should we table that and plan to do that after the next round of interviews? John, does that make sense to you? Since we
It
just
does.
have, yeah,
It does. We did reach out to all the applicants and encourage them to be there tonight for these interviews. The only one I heard from specifically was Ms. Emsley, who may or may not be eligible since she doesn't live in town. She explained that she had a broken foot that was operated on today and couldn't have attended in any event.
right. Okay, so I think, John, Miranda or myself will follow up with you about, next steps to get the word out, in terms of the next round, and to, communicate with the applicant who's not a Hartford resident about eligibility.
Yeah.
And our,
I guess maybe if we make that decision tonight, which I think it maybe wasn't called out. It was called out in one of the versions of the charges, but I don't know if it ended up making it to the last one, but I did put in there that Hartford Twin Pines tenants. I think that's what makes the most sense. I don't know if that's also what the board thinks so, or if it should be open to other towns. I just feel like if we're trying to collaborate with Twin Pines, with tenants, with, social service providers in the area and like the town itself, we wouldn't have much ability to have any like momentum for like change in like Lebanon or Norwich or anything like that.
do people have thoughts on this? Eric?
Thank you. I guess I see it this way. We should, in my opinion, encourage this applicant to attend the interview with the understanding that we may not appoint them because they are not a resident of Hartford. And at that time, evaluate the pool of candidates and potentially appoint and consider this individual because we may not have a very deep pool. And what we're looking for is robust ideas, regardless of where you're from. And we also have counterbalance with a select board member, a member of the Housing and Homelessness Committee, and potentially others who are town staff and others who have Hartford's best interests at heart. And so I think, to me, it's if we are looking for candidates and we aren't filling out the full slate of up to 5 tenants, then we should seriously consider this individual.
Any other thoughts? Yes, Mary?
I think I would agree with Eric, because actually Twin Pines, even though the bulk of the work would be done in Hartford, Twin Pines is in many towns, and maybe they would eventually adapt theirs. So I just think it's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, I think it makes sense too to let them know that we welcome them to come for an interview and that we are considering, we had thought that perhaps Hartford residents would be limited to Hartford residents, but pending the pool of applicants, that we may consider residents of other towns as well.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, John, would you mind communicating that to that person?
No, that's fine. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. All right, great, and we will, be in touch offline about further outreach to try to get the word out further, strategies to do so.
We also have Andrew here, so maybe if we could ask Andrew if he would mind stepping up to the mic really quick, just if there's any outreach that you think you'd be able to do as far as tenants.
What are you, let me just ask a question of you. When are you thinking about extending the deadline out to?
Yeah, are we, I guess, Eric and Ida, do you know kind of like what the next agenda might look like, if this might fit? I know we
Don't know
haven't
for
like
certain
actually
yet.
like,
We can make space for it. I mean, I think if time is of the essence and you want to do a push, then I would say we can make space for it.
yeah, so I would say maybe if we, and John, what you think about this too, of our next meeting is June 9th, so maybe a
right.
June 8th deadline.
Happy to do that if you like.
Right, so that'd be about 2 weeks from now, a little less than 2 weeks.
Right.
Okay.
I wonder if we have Andrew there, does he have any Twin Pines staffers that he'd like to nominate, as if that's the case?
Yes, so we do have 2 Twin Pines staff, Jenny Gibson, who's our Managing Director of Property Management, and Jennifer Hobbs, Hobbs, and Jennifer is the Director of Resident Supportive Services. So those are the 2 folks from Twin Pines who will be serving in the 2 staff positions.
Did you have a board member as well?
We're still polling.
Okay.
So we can be ready on the 9th.
Okay, great. And then to the other point about any outreach or strategies for tenant recruitment that you'd be up for
We
contributing?
can try a little bit more robust outreach to the residents, see if we can get some folks. I know that you've done the town postings. Miranda and I were emailing about it last night, and we can try to make sure that people are aware of that opportunity as well. So.
Okay, that would be helpful, yeah, since, there is listings on our town website, and you could reproduce those maybe to any tenant lists that you have, that would be very helpful.
And don't forget the stipend that's available to tenants to serve.
$50
Yeah.
Yes.
Per
Yes,
meeting.
Per meeting.
per meeting. Yep.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions or comments, Miranda, from you?
Nope, but if you're interested, you should apply.
Yes, if you're hearing this and you are a Twin Pines resident, we very much are seeking your perspective as part of this task force working group.
I also think we're looking for maybe one more social service provider, and then either a community member or school representative, depending on, I think if Jeanette is flexible and like what perspective she's coming at it from, then I think we can be flexible on like what role she fills on potentially fills on the committee.
Okay, great, yes.
If I could ask, Miranda, which organization has agreed?
We had application from Larry Blake Harvey at the Restorative Justice Center.
Restorative Justice, yes.
And then Victoria Brooks from, what organization? Oh, she's private practice.
Mental health provider,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, yeah.
Okay,
Jeanette,
I can,
yeah.
I mean, again, I'm happy to reach out to our social service peers. I'm happy to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I think we have at least one more spot there too.
okay, great, thank you, yeah. Yeah, that could happen this week, that'd be great, that'd give folks at least a week to consider and, put in an application. Okay, if there are no more comments on this topic, anymore? Okay. You do have a comment?
I have a motion to table something.
Okay, thank you. I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to table the executive session for the personnel for the Twin Pines Task Force applicants until we have a substantial pool of applicants.
I'll second the motion.
Motion from Eric and a second from Mary. Any discussion? Motion to table the executive session. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstain? John, we had 5 in favor, 2
Yep.
absent. Okay, so we are tabling item 7, moving on to 8, which is continuation of the board reports, motions, and ordinances, and our action items. So we are not, along with we table the executive session, so we're also tabling 5B here, because that would be the outcome of the executive session. So we'll move on to 5C, which is to consider and approve the VTrans bike and pedestrian grant for sidewalk segment between Interchange and Ballardvale Drive. And Matt Osborne is here. Thank you for coming, Matt. Looking forward to hearing about this. And let's see, we have about 10 minutes on our agenda. So if you could present in 3 or 4 minutes, that would be wonderful.
So we have a little bit of history on this. This project goes back more than 20 years. It started with a bicycle pedestrian scoping study that was done for the mile-long segment of Sykes Mountain Avenue and a half-mile segment of Route 5 between Sykes Mountain Avenue and Arboretum Lane. The goal at that time was to provide a continuous sidewalk corridor for that 1.5 mile section. In 2009, we did a bicycle pedestrian master plan, and it had prioritized list of pedestrian and bicycle projects. This particular segment came out very high. And in 2013, there was a second scoping study that was done just for the interchange area between Sykes Mountain Avenue and Ballardvale Drive. When we did the first bike ped scoping study, VTrans had a real problem with putting any sidewalk through the interchange area. In 2014, after that second scoping study was completed, the town applied for a grant, a bike ped grant, and was awarded $369,900 with a town match of $41,000. After the conceptual plan was completed, VTrans kind of put their foot down and said, we're not going to permit a sidewalk across that off-ramp until the off-ramp is realigned. The town doesn't get involved with designing interstate off-ramps. So this was a VTrans project, and we had to wait some time for VTrans to do a study of the area, and that was done in 2020, the US Route 5 improvement study, and that study recommended realigning the northbound off-ramp. So in 2024, with the Route 5 repaving project, the realignment of the northbound off-ramp was included. And then in 2025, VTrans renewed our 2014 grant agreement from the grant, and Combined with the completed roundabout project and several sidewalk grants, we will have a continuous sidewalk link between South Main Street and Arboretum Lane. Last July, the Select Board approved the revised contract with Stantec to resume their work on engineering design. Not surprisingly, sidewalk costs have increased since 2014, but the town did benefit from the repaving project in 2024, and some of the items that we would have done with our bike ped project were done by VTrans with the repaving project. Still, additional funding is necessary to complete the sidewalk, and Stantec recently developed a cost estimate. And to date, $64,557 has been expended on sidewalk engineering. Of that, $58,000 was from the grant and about $6,300 from the town. The grant request that we're looking at is for $132,628. There's a 20% town cash match, of which that would be $33,157 for a total project cost of $165,783 to be added to the first grant that we received to complete the project. And the cost estimate does include a 10% contingency. At this time, the town's required to submit an application that includes a letter of support committing to the 20% match and maintenance responsibility after construction. Notification of the grant awards will be in August. The financial impact, the town currently has sufficient funds already reserved. So of the town's obligation of $74,257, we would have an obligation of $67,818, and the approved budgets of fiscal years 24, 25, and 26 included $87,000 to meet the town's matching dollars for the existing grant, and as well as anticipation of the VTrans request for additional funds. So I'm asking for to approve the 2026 VTrans Bicycle Pedestrian Program grant application, submittal for the additional $165,783 needed to complete the Route 5 I-91 Interchange Sidewalk project, which includes the use of $33,157 town matching funds already in reserve, and authorize the town manager to sign all necessary documents to apply for and implement the grant on behalf of the Select Board.
Okay, thank you for that summary. It is quite a history and a journey for this section, and an important place to have a sidewalk, and appreciate the persistence in pursuing grant funding for this project. Are there questions for Matt? Yes, Mary.
I just have a quick question, and maybe I've missed something in being out on vacation, but is it new that they're requiring a 20% match? I've always been under maybe it's an illusion that, you know, a lot of our grants are a 10% match, but.
Yeah, for the bike ped and the transportation alternatives programs, most of the time they have been 20%.
Okay.
There've been a few periods where it was 10%, like our 2014 grant, that was only 10%.
Okay, thank you for that, Matt.
John, your hand is up.
Yes, I'm just wondering about this letter of support. Is that a letter to be signed by select board members, Matthew?
No, it can be signed by you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Not, I can take a motion. We're ready. Eric?
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Matt. I move to approve the 2026 VTrans Bicycle Pedestrian Program Grant application submittal for the additional $165,783 needed to complete the Route 5 I-91 Interchange Sidewalk Project, which includes the use of $33,157 of town matching funds already in reserve, and authorize the town manager to sign all necessary documents to apply for and implement the grant on behalf of the select board.
We have a motion from Eric. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second from Mary. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, thank you, Matt. Appreciate your time.
Thank you,
and,
Matt.
Yeah, best of luck with the next phase. All right, next we have to consider the approval and execution of water project loan documents. Chris Holsworth.
Hello.
Hi, Chris.
Thank Eric for finding a few things. We were in a rush to get this out. There was a typo in the memo on the table, but the right amount was down lower, so the amounts are right. I'm not going to rehash the whole history of these projects because we're all well aware of these projects. I will just update you. We are still sloshing through all the requirements. The bond vote was only one of the requirements to get financing in place, so we are working hard at it. VTrans permit finally came through on Hartford Avenue, which was holding things up. We're still waiting our environmental review clearance on that. So with that one has the most likely of proceeding faster than the White River one. The White River one has a lot of holdups on it, the environmental review, the engineers, services agreement still with the state being, so there's a lot of, it's a very complicated thing. But I would have liked to have this in a while ago, but of course we changed our finance department and so forth, so we're sloshing through it. I want to get these applications signed for, this is the lowest loan amount we can get, have it in position. It's due in June, so I want to have it ready, signed, ready to go, and submit it with the other documentation that we're required to submit it with. So I'm simply asking you to sign the applications tonight. I sent a PDF version that you can read if you want to see the actual ones. We don't have Adobe, so it prints a little funky, so Allie has been great. She's done screenshots and put them together into a PDF for you to sign and look at, but
Definitely sounds like we need Adobe.
yeah, so it's happened in a couple others, you know, when you see the squiggly lines for write-in in the package, that's because it went through admin, got printed, and we didn't realize it was that way before it went out the door, so. So anyway, simply asking you to sign them and to request that the town manager and the town clerk sign their parts as well.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Any questions about this? Yes, Mary?
This is just for my own understanding on the financing on page 5 of the 14 pages. They start at the bottom there, they talk about the total number of residential connections and then the amount of water used by commercial, industrial, and institutional. And then they divide it up so that you get an idea. Is that really average for each resident? 102,000 gallons, 102,040 gallons per resident?
Well, so I don't have that in front of me right now. So what they're doing is they're dividing it up. So like you're dividing it, and it could be cubic feet, right? And you're dividing it by gallons. You're dividing it by the number of days until you get, it's basically to calculate the number of equivalent EDUs.
Yep.
And an EDU is a single family residence. So they're trying to equate everything to a single family house.
Okay, I just found that very confusing.
It's an embedded, all you do is you enter the number of cubic feet used.
Right,
And it does the rest for you,
okay,
so.
okay. It's just, you know, I thought at first it was like apples to oranges, and I couldn't focus on it and say, why did they do it this way? The residences and then the gallons and, you know, and then the third line, you know, went through it. But I just found that commercial, industrial, and institutional connections huge in comparison to the residential. And I didn't realize we had that much institutional, industrial, and commercial in the,
Yeah, we have users like a few mobile home parks that
okay,
would count as commercial. We have the hospital, which is commercial, the
Okay.
VA hospital, they use a huge amount of water.
I thought they were on a separate system though.
No, we supply their water.
Okay.
And we have things like all the car washes and the car dealerships and
That makes sense. Now I
restaurants,
understand.
all the restaurants. I mean, there's
Thanks, Chris. I really,
quite a
thank you
few
for
users.
explaining that to me.
Yeah, okay, interesting to think about all our commercial water users, for sure. All right, any other questions for Chris about this? Now I can take a motion to approve the signing. Eric?
I did have a question. I guess
Oh,
I wanted
okay.
to follow up on, so you responded, Chris, to my inquiry about, on page 12, the checkbox about board members having financial training. And I understand that that's something that you copied over from a previous application.
Previous 2025 application, like Gail provided that information. So imagine those who haven't had any training, there'll be another round of training, I'm sure, planned. That would be up to John, but
Well, I'd be happy to investigate exactly who is requiring this training and for which positions. It may be that staff having some background in this area might be sufficient, but if they want select board members or a designee to attend, that shouldn't be a problem. I do have a vague recollection of that being a requirement, and I think in the past, a single select board member has been adequate.
All right, that's
Yeah.
fine. I didn't really understand what the training was or what that referred to. It sounds like maybe it's something specific to this program.
not this one.
Okay.
The previous loan we applied for was the asset management loan, which none of you actually have to do, but we've talked about one of you may want to do the asset management training. This is more of the regular classes Gail's referring to, or the VLCT trainings and so forth that are offered. So,
All right, and it seems to me like, given the,
but we can adjust the response on that one if no one here had that training in particular.
yeah, I would think that it wouldn't impact our application, given the size of our organization and the fact that we have a dedicated finance department
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
You don't
And
need
I wasn't sure if anyone else on the board had received training. I don't feel like I could say that I've received any training of that nature. So unless there's someone else on the board that's received something that would qualify, I would suggest we select a no and then seek to find out what it is that we need to do and then follow up on it.
Yeah, that's, again, gonna be the finance department's gonna let you know what municipal training opportunities there are.
Thank you.
Okay, so some type of VLCT training potentially exists that's related to like bonds, I would guess, yeah. Probably,
Finance and
yeah, finance
municipal
and, yeah, municipal finance, yeah.
bonds.
Okay, well, yes. Yeah, John, if you could look into that
Yeah.
and let us know what's available, what might be required.
Yes.
All right, great. Any other questions or comments about this application? Okay, anyone would like to make a motion?
I'll do.
Thanks, Miranda.
I move that the select board approve and sign the state revolving loan application for the Wilder and White River Junction water main improvement projects authorized by the voters on March 3rd, 2026, and request both the town manager and town clerk certify the applications for submission to the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources by town staff.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Second from Mary. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Chris.
just for the record, we will still ask the select board to sign off on the application with the understanding that we'll make that one change to the document.
Okay, we'll
Thanks for the
do.
clarification.
Great, and I assume it's over here on the table. So yeah, John, we'll be signing all of those. I'll make sure to remind everybody and then we'll put them in your desk.
Thank you.
Okay. Great, all right. Next, we're gonna consider the approval of the Twin Pines Housing Memorandum of Understanding and Safety Plan. Hi, Lexi.
So as the attachments show, you have an updated safety plan that's dated 5/19 that addressed a lot of the changes, hopefully all of them, from the 5/7 one. And then we have also provided an MOU as well that really just lays out the commitments of both parties and build upon the good faith of both parties. So we worked closely with Twin Pines to find something that we thought would be agreeable between the town and Twin Pines. So hopefully, so really just the proposed action is to approve the Pinecrest Apartments Safety Plan. And the Pinecrest Apartments is because they officially named the 444 Sykes Mountain Avenue now, so it has a new name. So some of the documents may say one thing and some say the old name, so that's why. Dated 5/19/26 and the MOU dated 5/21/26. And this advances the VCDP application, which we have the board meeting on June 11th. So these were things we needed in place for that board meeting.
Great.
And Andrew's here as well if you all have any questions.
Yes, great. And thank you for all the coordination, comments that went into this. I'm sure it was, significant amount of time, staff time, and very much appreciate the attention to it and carving out time in your workload for pulling this together and providing an updated version that considered a lot of various feedback. So I'll look to the board now. Are there comments? Are there questions? Yes, Miranda.
I was wondering if we were able to get an update on the letters of support. I know in the memo, it said that we were hoping to get them by today, but.
Yeah, so introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Yes, Andrew Winter, Executive Director at Twin Pines Housing Trust. If the board would entertain me approaching, I'm happy to give you copies of all the letters. Helpful.
Oh, okay, so there's paper copies of the letters. They were not in the packet, but Andrew has some paper copies. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I've just distributed to you 5 letters, one from the Upper Valley Haven, one from the VA, one from HCRS, one from the SASH program, Brattleboro Housing Authority, which works through Brattleboro Housing Partnerships and provides services to seniors in our community, and then a letter from WISE as well. And I thanks to all of the organizations that provided this information. I did also, and that sort of reflects ongoing partnerships and work that we're doing, as well as the letter from the VA talks in particular about, is particular to the project Pinecrest on Green Heights Drive. That's the new address. It's not on Sykes Mountain Avenue anymore. It's going to be 33 Green Heights Drive. And but it speaks to, the letter from the VA really speaks to the 6 households that will be there through the VASH program, which is something, a partnership that we've had, a successful partnership elsewhere in the community. So I wanted to share those with you. Chief left. I might as well thank the staff, the select board, and particularly the fire and police departments for their comments as well, which obviously we've incorporated, kind of pushed through to finalize everything. Really appreciate everybody working with us on this. So happy to take questions.
Okay, thank you.
Proceed.
Yeah, thank you for the coordination and requesting the letters. It's helpful, very helpful. Right. Other questions? I'll keep to questions and then we'll see if there's any public input on this matter, and then we'll go to select board discussion and decision. So other questions for presenters at this time? Yes, Eric.
Thank you, Ida. Not a question, but just a comment, just to reiterate thanks to everyone who worked on this between the last meeting and this meeting to pull it together. Something clicked, obviously, and that which we were struggling to get done earlier just happened in 2 weeks, or a good portion of it, and I appreciate that. I think we're in a place where I feel pretty comfortable now. 2 weeks ago, I was unsure, and I think a lot of good progress was made, more than actually we expected. We were anticipating the MOU to sort of have some, the requirements that needed to be fleshed out in the safety plan, but we've gotten that as well. And the letters, which, were in the MOU, and so we had some insurance there, but we've received them. So this is good. This is, I feel good about where we are and ready to move forward. So, thank you.
Any other questions? Mary?
I don't have a question, but Andrew, I just wanted to inform you of something that I learned this last winter when someone of your tenants complained about that the snow removal wasn't helpful for people with wheelchairs. And I was on my way into Hanover for some reason, and I observed something that maybe you can talk to your maintenance crew about. Hanover had a sidewalk, a plow, and everything was cleared. And then shortly afterwards, the town plow went by the street and the snow ended up back on the sidewalk. So I thought about that, and I thought, we don't even think about those things, but, it does happen. It's just the way things are. The other thing, and I've been going through this even though I've read this before, is I was in my doctor's office this morning just having some blood draw, and I noticed a poster up of a community service called Turning Point. Are you familiar with them?
Yes.
Okay, because when you said in your thing that you don't distribute Narcan, they said they do offer free Narcan. So I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that.
Yeah, I am aware, and while Twin Pines doesn't distribute it, I know there are organizations in the area that do. So Turning Point is one.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to make sure that, everybody was aware of that.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, great. If there aren't any other questions, I'll make some space now for public input. Oh, Eric, a question?
Just, did anyone on the board check in with Ashley and Tim to get any of their feedback?
I spoke to Ashley today, and she said she was comfortable with the safety plan and was, appreciative of the progress.
Okay.
I have not asked him about this topic. Yeah. Did anyone else do you have any other thoughts from Ashley? No? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right. So now we'll have some time for public input. So yes, Jeanette, if you could introduce yourself again, please.
Jeanette Potter, White River Junction. So I just see in the illegal drug activity, I don't know what the conversation was with naloxone, so, but it says there's no illegal drug activity allowed, so why would people need naloxone? It's an opioid reversal medication. So it says any federally illegal substances are not allowed in the building, so.
I assume because, just because something is illegal federally or in a specific place, then there will be instances of use, so it's important to have a response plan in those instances.
Okay. My concern is substance use in the buildings, and specifically the last 2 years, once a year, the kids and I walk down to the Department of Health for a day. to do a training, and every time we've walked by the one on the river here, River Walk, is that what it's called? There's a strong smell of marijuana emanating just as you walk up the sidewalk. And so it was an interesting conversation that we had, because it's federally funded housing. You can't have substances that are not federally legal being consumed in said housing. So it's just an interesting kind of note. And then in here, it just says that illegal drug activity, as they receive federal funding, all federally illegal drugs are prohibited at Twin Pines properties. If substances or paraphernalia are witnessed in a unit by Twin Pines staff, a report is filed and a warning issued to the resident. That being said, I've witnessed folks carrying around their pens, they call it their THC pens, on them, going in and out of the building. So I don't know if that's something with cannabis. Is it different? Just
Yeah, I don't know, I mean, if you want to respond, I think in general, you know, this safety plan is this document that's a starting point, and this is like an initial.
And it's in
stab and a
red, so I
draft.
don't know what that means, because it's in red.
Oh, that was added, that was revisions, yeah, from the
Okay.
last, we made a bunch of requests for more detail in certain areas, so the red was revisions this round, but I think in general, my comment is that this is a starting point.
Yeah.
And the part of the goal of the task force is to, you know, review and provide further input and refinements, from a community perspective on how can this be more specific, detailed, practical, you know, enforceable, supportive of residents, moving forward. But yeah, I appreciate that you're kind of noticing some details in there, and I think at this point, it's like, we're hoping to move forward with this understanding that it's
a starting
foundation.
point. Okay, got it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just when you're talking about naloxone, so Turning Points does deliver naloxone to anyone. It's a great program. They deliver to anywhere. We also have Main Street Museum. We have Gear Again. We have the Haven. Naloxone is everywhere. So,
Yeah.
but they will deliver it to them. So
Okay. Okay, yeah, thanks for that information. Okay. Other responses or input online? Okay. There aren't any other public comments. I'm gonna close the public input portion. And now we'll move to, for any further discussion among select board and a decision guided by the proposed action here in the motion. Anything else that people want to raise on this topic, given the revised, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Get this out of order. The letters, do we get those as public record?
Oh, so there's a comment from Jeanette wondering about the letters that were distributed, which were given to us as paper copies. There we go. So Andrew has given a paper copy to a resident who's in attendance, and I assume, Lexi, can we make these public as well?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Okay, so we will find a way to make sure that the letters of support are publicly available to other folks who want to review them as well.
So myself and the admin assistant in my department, we were talking about this is such a large project and it's related to the grant, especially if it gets funding, that we were talking about perhaps doing a spot on the town website that has all the associated documents with this project.
That'd be
So it could live
wonderful.
there, and then, because people ask for property files all the time, permits with the, you know, it's a large project. So it would be good to have a spot where people can see all the publicly available information.
That would be great, that would be great. Okay, so we'll work on getting that as part of the town, a section on the town website about this project, including the current version of the safety plan, information about the task force that's being formed, and the letters of support and other relevant documents. Okay. Select board, other comments or discussion? Are we ready to move forward? Eric?
Hearing none, I'm gonna make a motion unless there's anything else. Okay, I move to approve the Pinecrest Apartments Safety Plan dated 5/19/26 and the memorandum of understanding dated 5/21/2026.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion from Eric and a second from Mary. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, we have 5 in favor, John, and 2 absent. All right,
Yes, thank you.
great. Thank you very much for resolution to a long process. Appreciate the work again. Yes.
I'm also going to leave the resolution to sign over
Okay.
here, that has your all's names.
Okay,
The MOU.
the MOU, yes, we will sign that. Thank you. Great, and thank you, Andrew, for coming in today. Appreciate it. Appreciate the work going on behind the scenes. All right.
Get Andrew to sign it as well before he leaves.
Oh, so do we want Andrew's signature on it? Yes.
Yes.
If you wouldn't mind. All right, excellent. So we'll have Chief Cooney up. We're gonna move into our discussion item section next. And this is going to be first about the discussion of the fire department reorganization plans. Do we want to take a short break? Are you okay with that, Chief?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so let's break until 7:30, which is about 8 minutes from now, 7 minutes. allowing us to take a break for the patience of anyone listening in, tuning in, and Chief. All right, so we can go ahead and start with this agenda item about the proposed reorganization of the fire department.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. So this is, I'll probably start with how we got here. This is a proposal I've been working with my staff on and have been working with John for quite a few months now. Back in October, our deputy chief went out on a medical injury and has been rehabilitating. And during that time, he opted to retire. And so back in May, he retired. So we've been operating without the deputy chief's position since about October. So it required me to do some organizational changes, shifting roles and responsibilities within the organization. And then looking at our data submission for accreditation kind of sent us down the road on what the needs for the future would be. So that got us to this proposal that I've been working with my staff on and then brought to John, and John suggested that I bring you folks up to speed on what's going on in the fire department. So the proposal I made to staff and John is to eliminate the deputy fire chief's position in favor of bringing in entry-level firefighters into the organization, a more boots-on-the-ground approach. By distributing responsibilities across the current command structure, so each shift has a supervisor, a captain, and shift commander, and reorganizing how that information flows to me and how I'm distributing those responsibilities throughout the organization and impacting the community more by adding those services at the lower end, the service level. The cost is reinvested into savings. So basically taking the deputy fire chief's salary and using funds within the FY27 budget to hire 2 entry-level people in FY27 on July 1st. And then seeing how that works over this fiscal year. And my intent is to, if it proves to be successful and advantageous to the community, to see you back here in budget season, which is coming, to discuss filling the last 2 shifts with another 2 more firefighters. So, like I said, the proposed change aligns the leadership structure with an operational demand, so reinforcing the troops in the field, improving emergency response capabilities. It strengthens our community risk reduction by clearly defining what the fire marshal's role is and how he's distributing some of those duties and what he's overseeing within the organization. And it prepares our department for continued growth in the service requests that we're seeing an annual increase on. All without increasing the FY27 fire department budget. I intend to stay within that. And the town manager approved that request. So this is what the current structure of the fire department looked like, with the deputy chief overseeing the 4 operational shifts that are working those 24-hour cycles, where information flowing from the shifts and the wants and needs and functions were flowing through the deputy back to me. We just found that some requests were slowed, information wasn't always communicated all the way up through to the top. This new organizational model allows all the shift commanders to report their needs all the way through and a decision-making process to happen at our command meetings. We also found that currently we were feeling a staffing strain as well, making it difficult to maintain safe emergency ground operations, meet simultaneous call demands, provide reliable EMS coverage for multiple requests. And then we were seeing kind of, I would say, an alarming statistic in that our call volume is increasing pretty significantly. Over the last 3 years, we used the lowest of the average of 7%, when last year we actually saw over 10% increase in call volume. So we're prioritizing some of the response and community risk reduction. So this is a neat slide, just showing you some of the projections that my staff was able to model. I'm lucky I've got some people that have other talents and come from other worlds that have chosen to become firefighters, and some of them are pretty good at analytics and statistics. So here you see the first graph talking about our calls for service and projecting out from 2025. And when you apply a 10% year per year growth based on the 3 previous consecutive years, you can see where we're headed as far as 911 requests and calls for service in the fire department. The second slide talks about our reliance on mutual aid. Mutual aid's there for a purpose. None of the communities around us, none of the full-time communities around us are staffed to a level that would allow them to handle every real-world emergency by themselves. We all need to rely on that support. But that support should be limited to those low-frequency, high-risk incidents that would need us to all come together to solve a problem, to solve an emergency event. And we know that in Hartford, those low-frequency, high-risk events are typically below the 2% line. Right, we're talking major structure fires, we're talking very technical rescue incidents, those kinds of things. Those amount for about average, about 2% of what we're doing. And that's what mutual aid should be relied on. That's when we're asking another community to come into ours and handle their emergency. So here on the graph, you can see the blue line represents our current staffing model of 6 per shift. And you can see, based on the call volume and the simultaneous events, that we're above the 2% line and project upwards. That means the longer we're above that line, the more we're asking for our partners to come in and handle our routine emergencies. So my goal is to keep it down below the 2%. The center line shows what happens with this staffing model of 7 per shift. It holds us below the 2% line until you get to about 4 years out. That either means we need to make other changes in the future or progress in a more staffing relationship. And then at 8, it projects out stays less than 1 throughout the 5-year projection. So what the new organizational model looks like is we've taken roles and responsibilities within the deputy chief's role and some of mine, and spread them amongst the 4 shift captains that we're calling shift commanders in this slide. One working on operations and response with me, the other working on training and professional development with me, apparatus, equipment and facilities, administration, EMS compliance, and then the fire marshal working prevention and risk reduction. And we're still maintaining supervisor levels at between the 2 fire stations through a lieutenant's process. Just a breakout of what those shift commanders will be doing. One of them is dealing with emergency scene performance response. One's working on skills and readiness and through training and professional development. The other one's working on our assets and inventory, tools and infrastructure, and needs for the future. And the other one working on EMS compliance, systems and documentation within the organization. And then finally, the fire marshal who's dealing with code enforcement primarily. In fact, I would say most of the time he is boots on the ground out doing inspections all day. When what we need him to do as well is do the analytical time in the office, looking at ways that we can identify hotspots, repeat calls that are impacting our agency, looking at ways to target prevention strategies that might prevent additional calls for service, and collaborating with other organizations to kind of somehow force some reaction that reduces call volume. And then, of course, public education. So basically, we're looking at, I'm considering 2 phases to propose to you through this process. Phase 1 in FY27, which we just talked about, which is just reorganizing the deputy chief's salary, reallocating it towards the 2 entry-level positions. And then in phase 2, coming back to you in the fall and talking about this subject again, and about adding another firefighter at each one of those shifts. So a total of 4 new full-time positions. That's 3 new full-time positions, because you would exclude deputy chiefs that currently exists. Some other benefits is we noticed that our apparatus staffing is routinely affected at levels I think are not safe, and I think others would agree with. We operate in a two-station design, Station 2, Station 1. There are typically 2 people stationed at Station 2, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. At Station 1, it changes based on minimum staffing requirements. So while there are 6 people assigned to a shift, we allow a 5-person minimum shift, which means you have 2 at Station 2 and either 3 or 4 at Station 1. When there's 4, things go fine. You have two people always available that can respond either on an ambulance or an engine to handle calls. When we operate at 3 at Station 1, you get a lot of times that there's 1 person in the station to handle any emergency on this side of the community, which makes it very difficult. Now, we'll find that we'll still respond. You'll still get a fire truck. You'll still get a response. We may wait for the second station to come support that unit. But having 1 person operate in an incident in a vehicle is unsafe. It's outside the normal practice for the fire service, where it's always a team approach. So that delays, it causes unsafe scenarios, and of course it can delay as well. So increasing to 6-person on shift ensures that 2 people staffing on all responding apparatus, gives us better compliance with safe operating practices, it improves crew integrity and accountability, and then faster completion of some of those critical tasks that we encounter when we go to these emergencies. That's another data slide I wanted to share with you, just talking about, in our current model, how many times we're actually at full staffing. So we'll look at the 2025 numbers. Based on our allowable staffing model, we're dropping down to 5 on duty. You can see we were only staffed at completely 6 on the shift, 18% of the time in 2025. And there's lots of factors that play into that. Hiring lag. You hire a new firefighter that's on probation. He doesn't really qualify, he or she doesn't qualify until you're signed off in 4 months. So there's a lag where you might not be at full staffing. Plus we allow, accrual usage, right? People are allowed to take days off. People are allowed to be sick, obviously, and in other forms. And the reliance on overtime alone to do staffing is very burdensome, both on staff for working an exorbitant amount of hours, and it's just a financial burden as well. And always the trade-off is, when does new people versus overtime pay for itself? That's always a balance we're looking for. And then I want to draw your attention to the incident of simultaneous calls. This is what gets us caught, right? We can handle 2 emergencies simultaneously at any time, right now, right? It's when you get the 3rd calls and 4th calls into the scenario that we drop to staffing and have to rely on external resources. So we got 2 calls simultaneously, meaning both incidents are occurring at the same time, 473 times last year out of the 3,000 that were there. 110 times there was 3 calls happening at the same time, and then 31 times we had 4 or more calls happening at the same time. So as the call volume increases, this is again talking about mutual aid modeling based on current incidents, shows that minimum staffing to 7 per shift will reduce the department's mutual aid utilization below 2% over the next several years. And that's an improvement for Hartford and our regional partners. That way, Hartford will meet its own growing service demand without transferring the workload to neighboring communities. Mutual aid resources can return to their intended purpose, large-scale or low-frequency, high-risk emergencies, and regional partners will no longer bear the burdens of Hartford's rising call volume, and we become a more balanced, reliable mutual aid contributor. And it makes sense to be more sufficient while strengthening our partnerships. This also helps us plan for our future needs, expands the capacity to handle sustained call volume increases, reduces the dependence on external agencies, like I just stated, builds resilience during peak call times, and enhances prevention efforts. And it's proactive, and it meets the evolving safety needs we're seeing within the community. So we're in step 1 right now, reassigning the duties to the different command roles and changing our standard operating procedures. We've advertised for some new positions and to fill some vacancies. to include a deputy fire marshal, and we have 2 vacancies currently, and this would be 2 more. And then looking at evaluating between now and the budget period, and then having further discussions with you folks about further requests during that time. I'm happy to answer any questions or hear your thoughts.
You, Chief. Looks like we have a question
Yeah.
off the bat.
Scott, in miles, if you can answer this, how far out do your emergencies, your fire apparatus, I mean, how far out do you go?
Outside of town?
Yeah,
Boy, that's a loaded question.
sorry.
Well, we belong to, I believe it's a 60-member mutual aid compact. So
Okay.
we're going north as far Bradford, Berkshire, and down south as far as Reading, Weathersfield,
Okay.
that kind of area. But we
Okay.
do have MOUs with the state of Vermont because we're one of the only larger agencies in this region.
Yep,
So we have special resources that can be requested through Vermont Emergency Management. Back when the flooding occurred, we
Right.
send our Swiftwater teams all to Londonderry, and they were up in the northern part of the state. We've been down in Bennington and Brattleboro area assisting with rescues, but usually those are, through the emergency management
right.
complex.
I was just wondering, do you think that, that will extend any further? Because that's what I was worried about, is if, if the state, or if they said, wow, you're doing a great job, so maybe we could, stretch you out a little bit further, but then that would then create some of the same problems you're trying to get away from.
It would, and this is a discussion of regionalization kind of thing. Those have been had since I became in the fire service. That word has been around.
Right.
I've not seen it effectively applied. I know there are large discussions happening. There's a study going on in the legislature right now regarding EMS services. It is so different, no matter where you are in this state, even our size. The different level of service you're gonna get depending on where you are in the state of Vermont.
Yeah.
And how to make that more equitable throughout the state with, volunteerism is difficult, maintaining certifications and training is difficult, especially if you're not funded on those kind of bases. So those are large questions that the states, we're fortunate here, but a lot of places in the state are not.
Thanks. I mean, it's just something that's been kind of boggling my mind about, this stretching of our resources as we are supposed to be a growing community.
Yeah, we're careful. We do have contract towns that do contract services from us,
Right.
but we're careful on the impacts. Right now, the town of Heartland contracts with us to provide services to a section of North Heartland.
Right.
We contract with Sharon to cover certain portions of their community. And most recently, we've contracted with Pomfret
Right.
to cover sections of their community as well.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, yes, Miranda.
Yeah, all of this looks great. The structure totally makes sense, even just like looking at those 2 images, I guess I had a question about the calls, the simultaneous calls. Are those always fire, or are they just calls where, sorry.
Yeah, so we lump them into a call for service
Okay.
because it covers the broad spectrum. So yes, there are times when it is 3 ambulance calls at the same time. There are times when it's a ambulance, motor vehicle accident, and something else.
Okay, I was just hoping that there were like 31 times that there were 4 fires going on at
Oh,
once.
no, I think you probably would have saw that in a significant activity report if that was the case. But no, that has not occurred.
Question, Kirsty, go ahead.
Okay. I've seen those book reports or reviews that are just one word. That's why I wanted to summarize this to just one word: exemplary. Not a word I throw around in this chamber often, but this is awesome. But I'm not going to limit myself just to one word. I really appreciate the leadership and the focus on continuous improvement. I mean, sort of that thinking of someone leaves, there's a trigger for change, and just sort of leaning into that and figuring out how to do things differently and perhaps better, and hopefully better. And so I'm very appreciative of that. And taking the time to present this to us tonight, I really appreciate as well. And giving us the heads up on the FY28 budget stuff, because I've only done this once, but I really don't like hearing about the news in November so much as like in May. It's great. Gives us some time to sort of chew on things a little. And I think on that theme, this is a great model for other departments. You know, when the opportunities arrive, and I'm thinking, you know, as technologies change, we need to constantly be thinking about structure and process and just continuous improvement. One sort of question or comment I had is really around the projections and the incident trends going forward. You know, it's based on sort of the past data, but then you also have a goal, which is to strengthen community risk reduction efforts. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how the department can or plans to sort of change the curves. Because otherwise, you know, we have some genuine sustainability questions as we grow. You know, there's more people on the road, there's more likelihood of accidents, there's more interactions. Like if you just think about it in terms of like, you know, network nodes or the math that goes behind that. There's more stuff going on, and so the rate of incidents is nonlinear. In fact, I believe. And so I'm really looking forward to continuing this discussion on that vein and sort of hearing back from you and your team about what can be done so that those projections you have up there we prove them false. So, but thank you. Thanks so much. That's all.
Great. Yeah, I want to echo the appreciation. It's really kind of nice and refreshing to sort of see the proactive allocation of resources in a way that, you know, you with the expert who's on your own department can kind of like have that oversight and vision and sort of see how you can kind of reorganize and adapt in a way that makes a ton of sense. And an early heads up and preview into budget season is very much appreciated too. But on that note, I do want to ask, so the current, you know, the phase one makes complete sense. There's no changing in the budget. John has approved this phase, which doesn't impact the budget, but it also increases your kind of boots on the ground approach, which seems to make a lot of sense. And you've given us a heads up that this would sort of be paired with a request for FY28. I mean, as you know, we don't always grant staffing requests. So just, is there in your mind sort of a contingency plan? Like what if, as we consider all the budget elements and taxpayer desires for minimum increases, is there a contingency if we are not able to grant one or two positions in the budget for
Yeah, I mean,
FY28?
my first thought is fill the gap with overtime, which are maybe cheaper than two, but could fill the gaps on two shifts to maintain the minimum staffing level. John we've got, you know, labor agreements can be changed too, to change some of these numbers as well. Contracts are coming up in FY28, I think. I believe they are. So those are different things that can be accomplished somewhat through labor negotiations and agreement with management.
Okay.
So there are some options maybe out there for a slower approach.
Okay.
But I'm happy to present you some options when budgets come.
Okay. Yeah, good to be thinking about.
Sure.
As you know, there's so many variables that we have to weigh when we look at budgets. But having a fully staffed department is a priority, but as you know, there are many, many priorities that we have to consider, yeah.
I do.
All right. Other questions or comments on this proposal? John?
If I
Yes,
could,
yes.
yeah, I'll just say yes. Thank you, Chief, for noting that we had that conversation about ways maybe at the next union negotiation to see if we can't work with our union partners to find ways to maybe have an advanced knowledge of time off requests so that not everybody's going away at the same time, such that we have problems of coverage. So I'm hopeful that we will have good, candid discussions when it's time to renegotiate the contract so that they can understand where we're coming from in terms of limited resources and how working with us by having some advance notice of outages might help the entire department and therefore their townspeople.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Anything else on this? If not, we do have a motion, right?
No?
No,
Oh, no.
No,
Oh,
this is
this
just
is
a-
an
information
update.
only.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's
just a
informational.
discussion, yeah.
Okay, because we don't need our approval. Okay.
Not yet.
Not yet, yeah, okay.
Can I ask
great.
John a question?
Of course.
John, do you want the signature pages brought up to your office while I'm here?
No. We're going to collect all these and they'll be left in my drawer. I'll scoop them up in the morning.
Okay,
Thank you for that, Chief.
sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Amy.
Thank you.
Great,
Chief.
thank you,
Really
Chief.
appreciate it.
Okay. All right, then we're gonna move right along to an update on the assessment of boards, committees, and commissions. And this was an agenda memo submitted by Eric and Miranda. So we'll go to you both.
You wanna,
No, you do it.
find this? So this is, you've read the memo, you've read the attachment, I assume. This is an outcropping of the February 22nd workshop, planning workshop. It was identified as one of our priorities for the board. And I thought tonight what we could do is zero in on the immediate, so the recommendations in the document broken into immediate, mid-term or medium-term, and long-term. So I was going to suggest we zero in tonight on the immediate ones and see which we can tick off and assign, so to speak, and or modify and then assign appropriate. And then depending on how long that takes us, we could move into looking at the medium-term ones and see how far we get. So there's a few things to note. It's maybe not clear in the memo. This is really just the first step of an ongoing effort. So I think tonight's effort is get where we can, and this may continue for some period of time. You know that the board hasn't completed its strategic vision, and I think that's going to be important. What we're trying to do, if we're trying to align the board direction or committees and commissions directions with the board's direction, we need to be very clear about our strategic vision. So I think we'll need to revisit this more than once as we figure out our direction and path, and that becomes something we can communicate more clearly. So let me just turn it over to the board and figure out focusing in on the immediate term recommendations.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, yeah, and I'll just say just real quick that the table is a maybe useful reference, which is starts on page 228 of our packet, to have a quick reference for what Eric is talking about when he says immediate. Okay, yes.
I'm looking at the scope, and it says this review is limited to advisory bodies over which the select board has authority and to the advisory functions of those public bodies that serve both advisory and decision-making roles. I just, and maybe I missed something being out on vacation, but I'm concerned about, I want to make sure that the tenor is in that we are not pushing some of these advisory commissions where, that we're telling them what to do. Advisory says advice, and I'm just, I know that it says we have authority, but what is our authority? And maybe John can answer this. I just want to make sure that these commissions, I totally understand that, you know, their web pages should be aligned, their goals should be, you know, aligned with what they're attempting to do. I just want to make sure that the tenor is that we're in this together, not top down. Because these people, for the most part, as we've said, they're volunteers and they play such a huge role. And I just, you know, and a lot of them don't take the stipend. So I just want to make sure that, you know, maybe you, Miranda and Eric, can explain to me what you felt your roles were, or what our role is as select board in this, I don't know, organizational approach. I'm just not clear, and I just want to make sure, because I just know how hard these boards are, how hard they work on all of these things. So I'm just cautious, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think this sparked from a conversation at the annual board, what did we call that?
Workshop.
Work plan?
Work plan.
Session.
Yeah, the work plan session. Because we were talking about the strategic vision of we were talking about the town's strategic plan. Am I remembering this correctly?
Keep going.
Okay, I'm just looking for a cue that I'm on the right track. Yeah, we were looking at the town strategic plan, and we're trying to make sure that we're meeting some of those goals that we've set, and hopefully the committees are helping us to get there, right? We have a lot of committees, and so maybe trying to like hone in the focus so that, yeah, we're helping each other kind of meet those goals. Right?
So what is the strategic plan that you're trying to fulfill as for these commissions and committees?
Well, I think we're trying to just, wait, let me see.
Are you just trying to fine tune things, or get everything in an organizational, you know, expedient?
Where is
Can I address that, Mary?
Yeah, go ahead. I was looking for that.
So a few comments. First, somewhere in this document, I point out that this isn't intended to interfere with committees and commissions from doing self-directed work.
Right.
So yeah, we don't want to micromanage them, but we do want to seek places of alignment. And then in fact, the next agenda item speaks to that as a direct example. This initiative in the purpose section has 3 goals. One is to ensure that the goals and objectives of the advisory bodies align with the strategic vision and actions of the town. And so we have that now, the 2019 document, in August 9th, and I can't remember if you were here when we settled on that date for a workshop to revise and update that vision. Okay. So that's why I was saying, I think this we brought this up now. There's some low-hanging fruit here. And then as we revise our own strategic vision, perhaps in collaboration with some members of beyond the board, we'll need to revisit this. But that's, first of all, it's about alignment. And secondly, there's some structural changes. You know, there were questions, board members had questions during the February 22nd workshop about maintaining, modifying, or sunsetting. And so that was one of the goals of this exercise, was to look at, do we, you know, have things, has the landscape changed? Do we want to sunset anyone? And there are no recommendations for that at this time. There are recommendations for the additions, and there are some recommendations for some changes. And those are very much up for discussion. And they're just proposals at this point, and they need to be discussed with the staff liaison, as well as considered by the body itself. And so this is a sort of, we're dipping our toe in here into what I think is a longer term continuous improvement process. And then the third item in the initiatives, the goals, was to implement non-structural changes And that, some of those are in the immediate term thing. So I appreciate your concern. We don't want to be overbearing,
Right.
but we do want to see alignment. And so one of the chores for us to do is figure out what our vision is.
Yeah.
And then how do we communicate that effectively? And then how do we work collectively to make sure that, that committees and commissions aren't going off in different directions maybe, or their ideas are helping us form our vision as well.
My only concern is, just a matter of when boards change and over time, boards change their strategic visions, is that gonna require then these people to fall in line to a new strategic vision? And so, I could see, hopefully this won't happen, but I could see people being kind of frustrated that all of a sudden there's been a shift or a change with a new board, with, it's been 3 years or 4 years and a new strategic vision comes along and okay, now we have to realign again. And maybe that's fine. I don't know. I just, wanted to make sure that, we think about those things because those do happen. And I know one of the things that we did prior to this was make sure that, tell all the committees, they have to look at the language, make sure it wasn't focused on specific gendered language. Also, to go through and check all the ordinances and are they up to date? What are the ones that, we had to get rid of and everything. So there's always been a constant, nudge to make sure that they're as clear and as professional as they can possibly be. And so I just, I'm just tossing out these thoughts that I'm having. And, how do you determine what's, immediate? Was it, like I was looking specifically at like the sister cities one because I'm a liaison. So, is it because, it didn't really have a goal, it was just a description and that should change? So then, I actually got on email and I contacted Laura, who's the chair of the sister cities. And I said, you may want to read this and see if it's going to impact future meetings that we're going to have. So, I'm just curious and, just tentative, I guess is the best description of, trying to figure out, well, what's the purpose and how do we achieve both our goals without, with the right tenor, as I said.
You want to go?
Well, I was just gonna ask John, when are we due to update the town strategic vision?
August 9th.
Okay, oh, you did say that, I'm sorry. Yeah, because I guess I'm thinking that it won't necessarily be the vision of the boards. I mean, with changing boards, I think there'll be like different ways to accomplish the same goal, but I'm thinking if we're using the town strategic vision as the guideline, then hopefully it won't be too much, there won't be much of a difference between boards for committees to have to like, oh, well, now we have to do it this way or change what we're doing.
Right.
Because there's a new board, because the town strategic vision will be probably I'm imagining it's not gonna veer too strongly between, how often do we update it? Every 2 years?
It did change between the one that I was first under and then the second one. So, it's just,
Yeah.
everything changes over time.
But hopefully it's not like, I'm imagining that the strategic visions hopefully won't be, mass overturn of like,
Right.
actually the town's going in a completely different direction now.
Yeah, it's just something to think about.
Yes, Eric.
Right, so I think, the volatility of the vision is not a concern to me. I think we're tying a lot of things to a set of guiding principles and values, and those, as you suggest, are not maybe gonna be completely overhaul. Maybe there's some minor tweaks to them, but it shouldn't change necessarily everything on the ground all at once. We have some other areas to deal with. You know, for example, I think we need more of a framework, but that's a discussion for a different time. With specific to the sister cities, you know, that's a proposal, and it is something for them to discuss and figure out whether it makes sense. I think there's some concerns about the relevancy of that specific relationship, and so when I was thinking about this, and you know, I created from a process perspective, I created an initial draft, and then Miranda contributed to that, and so I don't want to pin her name to the specific idea. The original idea was me sort of figuring out, like, where did the sister city thing come from? Like, in the beginning of, you know, sort of, where did it originate? And doing some research around that, and then suggesting that those links of solidarity are maybe a way that we could invite them to look at their mission, and perhaps broaden it. And the idea of doing that in collaboration with Sonoma France could be kind of interesting. You know, sort of two entities from municipalities from the global north, for example, looking at other things that are going on in the world in sort of collective way. And then, but I do understand that you know, that they may not want to do that at all, and that's, you know, it's a broader discussion. So, so yes, I'm sensitive to your concerns and questions, and that's why we're having this discussion. I do want to sort of suggest that we focus on the list of immediate term ones, and these are things that I think are easy to check off without, they don't have a huge amount of impact on the mission or structure of any entity. They're sort of some housekeeping items, and I would invite the board to start with that list and sort of tick down through there and figure out which ones we want to do, which ones we want to change, which ones we want to reject. And then we can present a summary list to whomever. You know, some of these things are you know, staff or the staff liaisons or the board liaisons would end up with some tasks. And so that's maybe where we could focus our immediate efforts.
I agree with that. Yeah, so again, I think maybe the easiest format to view the immediate suggested actions is on page 228 of the packet. Or it's page 13 of this sub-agenda item. So there's like, you know, 8 or 9 suggested immediate actions. I think reflecting, Mary, your sort of input concerns about 10 or 2, I think that is really important. I think a lot of these things are good practical suggestions that are kind of universally relevant, not really tied to the strategic vision per se, but it's more kind of like operational improvements to sort of like standardize and kind of create a better structure for some of the activities of the advisory bodies. But I do think, I think if we just like hand committees a list, it might feel like a little more of a top-down approach. So I do think like thoughtful communication is a very important part of this process. And for example, like in terms of like the request for a work plan, I wonder, I mean, from my work with the Energy Commission, they sometimes work with like a Gantt chart of the year, of like the projects that they're working on and which months. And I find that really helpful whenever we visit that. So maybe, you know, offering that it doesn't have to be like a super complex, detailed plan, but like here's a template of a Gantt chart that might be useful in terms of developing a work plan. But yeah, providing tools to help lighten the burden of some of these suggestions would be one sort of global recommendation that I have.
Fair enough. And under that particular item, there's a note. This is select board should clarify expected outputs for work planning and provide a template perhaps to facilitate work plan development. So we could provide a template. We could clarify a few, what we hope, and just leave it up to them to figure out how to do it. You know, sort of, here's what we would like to see. And further, we suggest that it perhaps be done in conjunction with budget planning at some point.
Yeah.
Which is important. So if we're seeing budget requests, we also would like to see, you know, like, how does that fit into a, how does the work plan sort of reflect those requests and so forth?
Yeah.
All right, so the first one is work planning. Do we think that it would be reasonable just to bullet point the, or bulletize the, what the board is looking for, and then leave it up to the advisory bodies to figure out how to deliver that?
Well, first of all, should it be communicated after the new strategic vision has been adopted? Because if you're talking about August 5th, having a new vision, maybe they shouldn't begin working on the old vision.
Yeah, we're doing some sort of catch-ups, right? So if we're trying to produce an updated vision on the 9th, and genuinely, I don't think that the guiding principles and values are necessarily going to change significantly so as to impact the existing work of any of these bodies in the, you know, in an immediate sense.
Okay.
And like with our work planning, I think it's a practice. Like, it's taken us a while to sort of figure out how to do it and do it effectively. We're still working that out. So we could hold off on that.
Well, I guess I'm thinking that like with the work plan, I'm imagining it to be fairly low stakes. Just because, right, committees meet, the most frequent committee that I have meets twice a month. And so there's not a whole lot of work that can happen when you're like meeting for an hour twice a month. And so I imagine like, it would just look like, basically, what are your goals for the next 12 months? And yeah, I can't imagine it being like too detailed of like really much more than that, but like, right, what events are you having? What community engagement are you doing? What internal goals do you have as a committee? Like, what are you working on? And just listing those out as like a work plan instead of like something more detailed like we do as a select board.
Absolutely. I mean, number 3 under that list is, you know, highlight resource dependencies, for example.
Yeah.
What do you need from staff? For example, a communication media specialist. What do you need on board agenda time, so that we can work that into our work plan, right? So there's a synchronization step there. So yeah, I don't think this is it doesn't make sense to require anything in great detail. That's why the words high level are included there. The next one, just to keep us moving, some of the developing status, is about media, and I think this maybe could be led by the staff liaisons. Just my review of the homepages for each of these entities is suggests there's just some inconsistencies. You can't always find the mission or purpose statement. It's on some, it's not on others. A link to the charge or bylaws. It's just basic standardization in making all of these pages look professional and consistent. And they're, you know, sort of what we suggest here is a standards plus approach. So there's some basic information that everybody should have, and then there's some additional information that they want to have that might be specific to them or not. Maybe you know, maybe working with the staff liaisons and with other staff members, there could be some standardization there. So I think that would just, I think it would be simple and it would be useful. As far as the onboarding packet goes, you know, I'm not aware of what is presented, and I have seen some open meeting, some interpretations of open meeting law that suggest that we're not all up to speed on that. And I'm not sure what relevant town policies and procedures need to be communicated, but I would think that a sort of, again, a standards plus approach with, you know, there are some basic things that every new member of an advisory body should receive. And then maybe there's some specific things like links to, you know, the Conservation Commission has a number of, the town forest plan, for example, would be, you know, a resource that they want to share. But again, there's at the highest level, there's there can be some consistency, I believe. The referral process really is, you know, the next agenda item is really an example of that, as I mentioned earlier. I think I've seen this done. Rutland City does a really good job of when items come to the floor and the expertise or the bandwidth isn't in among the aldermen, they refer it. They refer it down to one of their committees and commissions. And I think we should get in the habit of doing that. And it can be referred down as a request, as a recommend, as a nice ask, right? It doesn't have to be a demand. But this board won't have the bandwidth for everything. And and this gets into, you know, where do we need additional committees and commissions? Public engagement and input, this really is pretty close to my heart here. We talked about in our first annual work planning back in June 29th of 2025 about limiting public comment here at board meetings. And one of the suggestions was, well, you have to hold public forums so that then it gives people a place to speak. But in addition to that, I believe that the committees and commissions should be more topic or domain-specific locations for the public to engage. And there's some things that need to happen to make that work well. For example, you can't, as a member of the public, engage effectively if you don't know what the if you don't have access to the supporting material before the meeting. So you might see an agenda item that piques your interest, but if you don't have an agenda packet like the board develops, or access to that material in advance, you're at a disadvantage. You go into that meeting at a disadvantage. And I can speak to experience from this. As years ago on the Energy Commission, we were looking at the net metering rules and putting together a letter to send to the Public Utilities Commission. And had anyone come in to comment on that, they would have been at a disadvantage, because I don't think that material was provided in advance in a select board or in a packet type of agenda that expands into a sort of packet. And furthermore, you know, there's probably some best practices for that we should provide across the board for engagement. When is informing the public enough engagement? When is consulting them? When is involving them? And when do we collaborate with them? And this gets back to our sort of broader engagement strategy discussion, which is hopefully forthcoming. Routine maintenance, you know, looking at the web pages periodically, and perhaps looking at the bylaws. I suggest 7 years, but and really I should say, just reviewing them and deciding whether they need any refresh. They may not need refresh. The next item, meeting minutes, notes, and agendas. I touched on that already, the agenda packet. Recording public comments in the meeting minutes, just as we do in the select board, I think would be a good practice. Knowing who in the public made comments and the general essence of those comments is part of the process, I think, for allowing the public to engage at the committee and commission level and feel like they're being heard and understand, like, I made a comment, it got in the record, now what happened? Did anything happen? I think people need, the public deserves that feedback. And the last, I think the last one under immediate term is the CIPC, which as far as I could tell from the timeline for the CIPC is engaged in mid to late June, and so we should be forming this soon to coincide with that timeline.
I have asked the consultant to be a little bit more specific on when they expect to be intersecting with the town and the select board. So as soon as I have that information, I'll pass it along.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that overview. Miranda, did you have another?
No, I was just gonna say, I think all of these asks make sense. And so, yeah, if other people on the board agree, if we should timeline perhaps, yeah.
If there's a concern about top-down, does it make sense to solicit input from either committee chairs and or staff liaisons?
Yeah, I wonder if each select board member should maybe work with, like, deliver this message to their committees, kind of like make these asks at the next meeting, along with staff, the staff liaison, like maybe meeting ahead of time, discussing this, and then making the ask in the meeting.
Well, I was suggesting actually seeking their input before the board were to adopt a plan, because maybe we will hear something that we're not expecting to hear that could change course or change thinking on the board. I don't expect it. I don't know. But again, if we're concerned about simply presenting them with something, maybe we should ask for their input before the board formally adopts something. Just a thought.
I think it's a good thought, John. I would suggest that all except this CIPC, all of the immediate term recommendations except the CIPC would fall into that category of running it by the staff liaison and letting them sort of reach out to the chair or whomever from the advisory body, and then we can circle back and see whether there are any concerns or alternate suggestions, and then move forward with those accordingly.
Would that anticipate some kind of follow-up discussion in 2 weeks' time? Is that what you have in mind?
Without knowing exactly what's on that agenda, I would say 2 weeks minimum.
Yeah, I was wondering if you only meet once a month with some of these commissions,
Right.
you might not see them for another month.
Well, this is
Yeah.
just for staff feedback, right?
So, I mean, John could communicate with the staff liaisons, and staff liaisons could reach out to chairs individually just to see whether there's any immediate reaction to any of these recommendations. But we don't know, we haven't built the agenda yet for the 9th. So possibly the 9th, but it could be further out than that. There's nothing particularly urgent here, with the exception of the CIPC one, which we know is slots into an existing project plan.
Yeah.
So if we can't make the 9th because of either we have a full agenda or because we haven't given the liaisons and the advisory body members enough time, then it's not really an issue as far as I can see.
Would it make sense to have them give feedback on medium-term and long-term actions too, and then we could potentially adopt the whole document as a plan?
I think that's good thinking.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe it's next step would be to ask John for you to circulate this document to staff liaisons of committees and
Yep.
commissions. I would say maybe 2 to once the recording of this discussion is available, you
Right,
could send the meeting link with a timestamp so they could kind of hear us talk through it as well. I think that would help with context for what the ask is, because I mean, just myself hearing Eric kind of talk through each one helped me understand and visualize the expectation a bit more.
Yep.
So that would probably be useful.
Do we also think it might be helpful to hear from chairs as well, like staff liaisons and chairs, or do we just want to hear from staff right now?
Yeah, I think the request will be John to send it to staff and part of asking them to review it, but also recommending that they share with their chairs, their co-leadership, and solicit input however they find is appropriate. But yeah, that would be a suggestion, I think.
Okay. Yep.
And, you know, to take note of who is noted as the task leads. You know, often this is a task that we're suggesting be done in conjunction or in partnership with the town manager or select board liaisons. So yeah, it's idea is collaborative, kind of, collaborative steps to just create a little more standardization, organization across the committees, like Eric said, sort of make the website look more professional. That's always a good thing.
Just easier to navigate.
Easier to navigate.
Could I ask a question?
Of course.
Either Miranda or Eric, what do you mean by improve select board referral practices to leverage advisory body capacity?
Where's that? Oh, the chart.
So as I mentioned, Rutland City does this well. So when they have topics come up that they don't address immediately, they might refer the discussion down to one of their committees or commissions for further deliberation, discussion, follow-up, and then that entity might come forward. You know, for example, they had something to do with park bench or some change in a park, and so they just said, hey, we're going to refer this to their equivalent of the Parks and Rec, and then so rather than trying to take that on themselves, they refer it down and then seek a recommendation. So it does a few things. One, it delegates to the domain experts. There is a situation right now where the Conservation Commission is undertaking something that they have the expertise to discuss, but this board doesn't necessarily have the same level of expertise. It's both conservation and it's legal, and it just makes sense for them to start working on it and then deliver a recommendation here. So had someone come to the podium and said, hey, we want you to entertain this topic, we should be mindful that, hey, we don't need to try to get our arms around every single thing. Could we refer that to a committee or commission? So it's a delegation, it's about bandwidth, and it's about expertise.
So I would think, though, that under the task leads, that you would include not just select board liaisons, but staff. Because in some cases, I would think they would know where the referral would best serve that committee or commission. That's why I was looking at that and I was trying to put together, who could best help that commission with those referrals.
Well, the good news is that the number of staff liaisons to all these committees, I think, probably number no more than 5 or 6. So
Okay.
between those people, I would think they would know where a referral should properly be directed if you're looking at boards and commissions rather than staff.
Yeah.
The action is to improve our practices. So this is a select board focused thing. And so this is, again, if someone walked up to the podium and said, hey, I want the board to address this item. As a board, we should be in that mode of saying, okay, should we take this on ourselves or should we refer it? And then, so the the leads in this are just the select board and the select board liaison, yeah, staff liaison would obviously be involved, but this is really about the board making a decision whether we should be delegating work and for both, for the reasons I mentioned. And I think maybe this table doesn't really reflect the process very well, and I think we just have to practice it.
And will you give, like, where you say adopt best practices for meeting minutes, agendas, and agenda packets, will you give people a template that shows them what best practices would be, would look like?
That's a very good question. You know, I think if we go back up to the section where this lives in the document, let's see. I bullet point some examples here. Posting a notice or meeting notes when a meeting does not occur or lacks a quorum. So right now, if you go to the Agenda Center, sometimes you will see there are no minutes or notes, and so it leaves one to wonder: did the meeting occur, or did nothing just get posted? So what happened? So that's one example of what I would consider best practice. Strictly adhering to the 5-day calendar requirement for posting meeting minutes is actually part of open meeting law, so that's not even the best practices, it's the law. Recording public comment in meeting minutes, including the essence of the comment, the speaker's name and residence, as the select board does. So that's pretty straightforward, I think. Creating agenda packets that include relevant background materials with the electronically posted agenda. We want to enhance public input at the advisory body level. Residents need to have information in hand before going to the meetings, not just during them. So those bullet points identify what I first came up with for best practices. If any of the members of the board or staff want to add to that, by all means, let's do so. Can you think of other best practices that you would like to see there?
I don't know if I have any to add to that list right now. I think that's a good starting point and a good, to give a little bit of guidance in naming sort of an expectation around what that might look like. But I think also inviting the leadership of the commissions to consider, reflect themselves on what their best practices might help them achieve their work is another good invitation to have along with this, in the spirit of collaboration.
Yeah, and maybe we hear that the need is, we actually don't know like what our meeting notes to look like or what our agendas look like, and we can maybe provide a template if that's something that committees need support on.
Yeah, see if there are areas where people feel like they need more support with any of these, then it would be an ongoing conversation, and we can provide resources when as appropriate.
And we'll see what the first round of feedback comes back with. Mm-hmm. Right? Not only asks, but perhaps other suggestions for best practices. So this is a starting point.
Yeah, and John, again, making that clear too, when you communicate it to the staff liaisons, this is very much a starting point, it's a draft, and
Yes.
seeking collaboration and input in every area of this, but just sort of in, the long-term goal or purpose, well, it's laid out in this, but to kind of just improve practices, communication, and alignment. All right, so seems like people are comfortable with this request going to staff liaisons for the input on the document as a whole, but as we've been doing tonight, to focus maybe on the immediate actions primarily, but input also welcome on the medium and long term. Do we want to do the second part here of identify, assign, and schedule next steps related to the medium and longer term.
Well, I thought I understood that Miranda to suggest, and I thought it was a good suggestion, that we asked the staff liaisons to include the medium term as part of the discussions.
Yeah, okay.
As far as the long term, that's really kind of more of a board thing, right? So these are actions that the board might consider over the coming year, and they don't have great urgency, but so during the February 22nd workshop, there was mention of a public health commission or committee. So if we wanted to pursue that, I think we should begin by drafting a mission and scope language, which will tell us whether, if we can do that effectively and it stands out distinctly from other bodies, then maybe we've got something that we need. Otherwise, we might find that any functions could be absorbed into other advisory bodies. The cemeteries, this one goes back to the 2018 report. There isn't an incredible urgency here, but at some point, people tell me that the cemetery associations, the membership in the associations and their capacity to continue maintaining the cemeteries is dwindling. And the report recommended a cemetery commission charged with those bullet points that are included there. And then there was also some additional ideas from the select board about future, sort of exploring the future of cemeteries, burial alternatives in natural forest type cemeteries.
Yeah, I think that is something that needs to remain on our radar, because we do know there's going to be shifts in terms of cemetery oversight. So that is something we should be thinking about, and it is on our, it's a select board item. And with regard to the public health one, I mean, I think one point is we have a select board liaison to the Hartford Community Coalition, which isn't listed here as one of the advisory boards. It's sort of interesting that it's just kind of like an organization that is sort of treated like a commission. It's another topic for another day, but perhaps it's part of the conversation of a future public health commission. If there is a need for that, we can collaborate with an existing body, the Hartford Community Coalition, that works in the public health space, to sort of understand if they would want to be part of that, if they feel like that's, would kind of transition them from just like a sole organization that has a liaison to a broader scope.
By no means am I advocating for this commission or committee. I'm reflecting, these two paragraphs reflect what I thought I heard during the February 22nd workshop. Mm-hmm. And so it's a placeholder for future discussion about whether, and again, I suggest that we start by, if we wanted to draft a mission and scope, that might clarify the needs, if there are any.
Yeah, I would advocate for it, but yeah, future discussion. Okay, anything else on this, or any decisions that need to be clarified? All right, in that case, I think we can move on. I think we've got some next steps via John. And John, if you need clarity, you can follow up, but are you good for the moment?
I think I've got it.
Okay, great. Okay, then I think we can go on to the final discussion item, which is related, and it's a proposal around affordability proposals and to plan a special meeting with relevant committees. And this was brought by Eric, so Eric, I'll turn it back to you to give an overview of this memo.
Okay, thank you. Very brief memo, so I assume everyone's read it. Let's see if I have any notes on it. I think maybe just comment that even if this conflict in the Middle East is resolved very quickly, the effects, the economic effects for people in Hartford and elsewhere are going to be lingering and lasting. And it's really sort of unclear. From my perspective, the worst case scenario is we do some work and lean into the topic of affordability, which we already know is challenging for low and moderate income households. And if this conflict is resolved pretty quickly and easily, then we've not done anything that we wouldn't want to otherwise do to support the residents of Hartford. The other comment I'll make is what's absent from this memo is what will the select board be doing. And so I think if we decide to set up a special meeting in August to focus on this topic, we will also want to charge ourselves or task ourselves with figuring out what work the board and what focus the board wants to have, and what initiatives the board would be bringing to the table at the time. For example, anything that's budget related, any other special projects that we think we want to undertake. So that's not covered in this. This is just focused on 3 advisory bodies, which if there are other ones in mind that board members would like to suggest, let's talk about those too.
Right, so the 3 ones named in the memo are Resilient Hartford, the Energy Commission, and the Committee on Housing and Homelessness. I think this is a good idea, and those are relevant committees that I would be interested to hear from their perspective, ideas and proposals related to this topic. That's where I'm at. Do other folks have input on this? Sort of beginning like a nod to what Eric was talking about before, of like referring, like if there's, well, this isn't something that was brought to us, but this is something more just sort of on the horizon and a general need and concern in our country and community. And so it's like, how can we ask our advisory boards to put their heads together to come up with ideas that might help advise us on how to create policies or programs that might alleviate cost burden on residents of Hartford. So I understand it.
You know, I think, so there are 2 recommended motions if we decide to go forward with this. Sort of providing our liaisons with maybe some suggestions would be helpful. Just to seed the conversation, just to get the conversation started. For example, on the Committee for Housing and Homelessness, you know, it strikes me that the home sharing concept is one in which there isn't a lot of lead time. So it's not like building a new house or an ADU where it takes design time and permitting time and construction time and so on. And so the time to actually put someone in that unit is many months or perhaps years. The home share piece is really is about connecting people. It's about networking, right? And it addresses affordability by, if I have a large home that I'm struggling to heat, and heating oil may well be quite expensive come fall, and I'm willing to invite someone to share part of this home with me to help me make life easier for myself. And by the way, also, you know, their rent, so to speak, pays part of the increase in my heating fuel bill. That's kind of a win-win all around. Not to mention all the other side benefits of community cohesion and just generational stratification within homes and so on, and some alternative to housing like we just like we're building. So that's an idea, I think, that we should, you know, if housing and homelessness has focused on that, put some effort into it, I would say 100 times that effort is required. I think it's really it's something that that can happen between August and December. Matches can be made, people can find homes, and people can find relief in their budgets. So that's one example. So, but I think seeding, sort of coming up with some suggestions and ideas to sort of get the conversation flowing from, just get people brainstorming would be helpful.
No, I appreciate that idea, because I was struggling with like, what would the committees come up with? I was like, I was, yeah, a little stuck. Even though I do like the idea, because I think this is something that we constantly hear is like affordability in Hartford is sure not going down. And I think, yeah, like home share is a great example of what addressing like multiple issues that we hear about of housing, of affordability, of resiliency, of like aging in place. It like covers a lot of things. I don't know if I have any other ideas to add, but I do like this idea a lot.
In the domain of energy, V-Light is a grant source, but it's also a great source of ideas. They have a spreadsheet on their website that's very easily accessible, and they list projects from the current year and past years. I forget how far back it goes, but it is a wealth of ideas about projects that have been funded in other communities. So that might be one place to start. Looking for some practical ideas for what to implement in Hartford. And what does V-Light actually fund is also an interesting question.
One thought is that, I see your hand, Mary. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm wondering if we should wait until we have both Tim and Ashley before we make any motions.
I was wondering that too, particularly because I think Ashley is the liaison to both housing and homelessness and resilient Hartford.
Oh, yeah.
So especially the second part of the motion really pertains to her. It would be good to have her input, I think, her presence, since she is the community liaison, and it would be helpful to have her as part of the brainstorming discussion and the decision to make this motion.
And I did want to say to Miranda, I mean, maybe, these are great ideas, but we have to be realistic too, because I actually had a neighbor who wanted to go through home shares, and she's been waiting for 2 years. She doesn't get the match, and she's put herself on the list for Twin Pines. She's gone to fill out forms for the Haven. I'm not sure where she is now, because she had to move out. She was sharing with someone in the area, and she had to move out as of May 1st. So I can contact her and see what her experience, but she did tell me that she had tried with home shares and maybe it just hasn't caught on as much, even though it has been in the news recently and everything, with, a good success story. But, I don't know how hard it is to make those matches. So it's a possibility, but it depends on a lot of things in order to make it work, so. And she's older herself, so maybe they're looking for a younger person, or, so there's a lot of things to consider. But I think, going back, I think we should definitely have Ashley and at least, and Tim back if we're gonna make a motion. That's just my thought.
I also wonder too, though, with like, right, if how the Housing and Homelessness Committee maybe does some research on home share, or reaches out to the organization itself and like talks with them, like maybe there's ways that through their success stories they know that like more support from it, like if there's other things that like we could have an active hand in that can make things like that more successful. And maybe that's the recommendation, is that like, hey, we talk to home share and they say, if the town does these things, like maybe we could get some traction in Hartford on the program. I don't know.
The recommendation should be coming from them.
Yes, from
My-
the committee.
I started the conversation with sort of seeding the brainstorming conversation with some ideas, right? So we want them to brainstorm and produce proposals because A, they have the bandwidth, and B, they know the domain better than we do.
Yeah.
Or for the most part, right? There's some exceptions, but yeah, I don't know what the answers are, but we want some recommendations. That's the ask.
And Tim's been in housing a lot, but
Yeah.
probably not at the affordable level.
Yeah. Okay, so what are your thoughts, Eric, on tabling the motion until we have Ashley and perhaps Tim present?
Well, there's two separate motions. I agree that the second one makes sense to have the full board, or at least Ashley's contributions. The first one, we can still consider, I would think. This is about just shuffling things around and giving the committees a heads up.
Okay.
And when do we think we would have the special select board meeting?
In August sometime.
In August, okay.
I only suggested
Okay.
a special meeting because I think if we try to do 3 presentations, and possibly there's combinations, right? That was one of the ideas, is joint proposals between 1 or more advisory bodies that just want to do something together. So maybe there aren't 9 or 6 proposals, but I think we should give ourselves time to deal with this topic. And it is something that class of 25 talked about a lot in campaigning. That is affordability. And so I haven't forgotten that.
I also think being in a special meeting makes sense because I think we would probably get a lot of public engagement on that as well, hopefully. I imagine there'll be a lot of interest and maybe some comments and ideas from our community as well.
Which we would hope to capture at the committee and commission level first,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Opportunities might include August 11th and 25th. Those are off weeks.
Right.
I think the 25th we have the
Braver Angels?
Braver Angels, right?
Yes. Okay, so perhaps August 11th. Okay, I don't know if we need to.
Full August.
Yeah, full August. All right, well, if there's a motion for this first part, I will take it. Miranda?
I move that the select board shift the Resilient Hartford update from July to August and shift the Energy Commission update from September to August and combine those updates from these bodies with the update from the Committee on Housing and Homelessness in a special select board meeting focused on addressing affordability in August. Date to be determined.
Thank you. Is there a second?
A second.
Second from Mike. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstain? Okay, we had 5 ayes, John, 2 absent. And we are tabling the second motion, or do we need to move to table, or I don't think we need to move to table. it.
Yes.
Oh, we do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is there a motion to table the second part of our motion?
So moved.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second from Mary, all in favor of tabling part 2 of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstain? Okay, so we'll return to that at our next meeting and give Ashley especially a heads up about that discussion. I did have a brief conversation. I don't know if she'd seen the memo yet, but I talked to her about the idea after Eric and I had discussed it, and she liked the idea. So I'll make sure that I'll talk to her again and she has time to review it and think about it and provide input and consider it before we come back to it next time. All right, moving on to commission reports. I can start with you, Miranda, if you have any commission reports.
No, I think the only thing is that Juneteenth is coming up on June 20th at Lyman Point Park. And each grade is hosting that, so it will be a fun event.
Yeah, great. Okay, Eric, reports?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Mary, any reports?
Yep. This is Sister Cities Committee. We discussed briefly the block party that's on June 17th. We meet on the 16th, so at the time we had the meeting, we were awaiting the response from Kelly Clements of Hartford Community Coalition. And there will be a booth. And then there's an update on the Sister Cities logo. It's finally moving forward. Bonnie Arnold of Red Door Signs has been contacted to perform the work on our sign, and we await her response. And there are concerns about where the placement of the sign or signs, depending on how the expense is, because there is a fund for this logo. The sign has been in the works since the contest for the design was created in 2020. And I may be mispronouncing his name, Aodeli Lowe of Hartford High School won that contest in 2020. And that's it.
Great, congratulations to them. Anything, Mike?
No updates.
Okay, and I also do not have any commission reports. Okay, we can go to the consent agenda. Take a motion if someone's ready.
Item.
Yes.
I'll move that the select board approve payroll ending 5/23/2026, approve AP manifest of 5/22/2026 and 5/28/2026, approve meeting minutes of 5/12/2026, and approve future meetings of 6/9/2026 and 6/23/2026.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Second from Mary. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstain? Great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mary, second by Eric. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, great, thank you, John, and I'm gonna sign, I'm saying it out loud, if anyone else has not signed, please do so right now.
Thank you, John. Good night.
Thank you so much, John.
Well done. Thank you for that announcement, Ida.
Yes.
See you
and
all
I'm gonna-
soon.
And I'm also gonna put the unsigned Twin Pines Task Force, I'll put those in your desk too.
Very
Because we
good.
didn't-
Thanks again.